and the stream should be live. So, last time, let me update this to make sure it actually works. I'm always paranoid that it is not going to update the stream title, because in OBS, it gives me the little, can't do this kind of thing, but then it seems to go through sometimes, so I don't know. Just double checking. Yeah, okay. That updated. Very happy. Okay. So, last time, which was last night, we worked on this, getting this to actually run. And for those of you who know Java, you probably think this is a complete abomination of syntax and everything. But yeah, if you abuse the syntax of Java enough, you can get something very close to Gherkin. And believe it or not, this actually runs. It runs in a very the way that it's built is kind of crazy, and it uses a lot of nested interfaces and a lot of fun stuff. But we're not going to go into that today. Basically, if you're wondering, this is how you run it. You just create a new instance of that script, which is what we just showed. Long story short, we use our custom framework here to actually build the tests and run it. So yeah. But we're not going to be working on that. We're going to be going back into this browser module stuff that I worked on, and we're going to actually add all of the Selenium methods to it, because we need to do that. So we have our, I guess it's Selenium element we'll work on, or we'll use as sort of the base. I mean, they all implement elements, so it doesn't really matter. One moment, I have a message that I must respond to. No, I must not. Okay. It's just telling me that I am live. I know that. I hope I know that. Anyway, so the submit button, I'm not clear on what... Oh, that submits a form, right? I don't know that we're going to use that. I think we're just going to use click, and we're not going to worry about submit, because I think submit is like a special case of form, or a special case of click. So we might just ignore this one. Clear, I believe that clears the input. Let me double check. So it would be not this, it would be Selenium, web element, Java doc. and I know you can't see this, it's not going to use it for that long. So clear if the element has a text entry, this will clear the value. And what does submit actually do? If this current element is a form or an element within a form, then this will be submitted to the remote server. So what I understand, or an element within a form, so what I understand from that is if we call that on a text box, that will, like a text thing within a form, it would still submit the form anyway. I don't like that. We're not going to support that. So we have click, we have input, which is input is basically send keys, and then we have navigate, that's for pages specifically. So I think the next thing we need is clear. So I believe these are classes. So this is going to be clear. So you implement action element, blah, 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 blah. We'll take that. Thank you. I need that, yeah. Alright, so execute, this is going to call .clear. It's .clear. Because, yep, we still get an element. Wait, why do we get a web element? Oh, it comes from web element. Okay, I understand now. Because it's available, because our element implements web element, so we get clear from that. Okay, that makes sense. So we also need, so we want to be able to validate attributes. So I think this is going to lead us into the validate sort of thing. Like the validate kind of actions. So really it's going to be validate attribute. So for this, we need to validate attribute is, attribute is. So basically, you know, A equals B. A equals B like that. Otherwise, we need to say, you know, attribute contains, because it can contain text, you know, A dot contains B. And otherwise, we need attribute has attribute, basically. Attribute which is A not equals null. And then we need the not versions of these as well. I want to put these on the same class, but also on different classes at the same time. Just the different classes is just to be more explicit, I guess. The not can be a subclass, but I don't know if I want to do that. And we'll just make them all. Because why not? We'll say validate attribute is, yes. And you will again implement action arguments. Because I don't think this is, this doesn't have any arguments. Really, we need a no arguments thing to be explicit. So yeah, I'm actually in favor of no arguments. Where would we put that? It's not in the API, it's not really in the implementation. Actually, yes, it's in an arguments package. And we'll create an interface in here called no arguments. Nope, not a package. I mean, it doesn't matter what I select from here, but yeah. Say no arguments. Extends arguments. Arguments, yes. I'm curious, can interfaces be final? They cannot. Interesting, okay. That's fair. I didn't think it would let me do that, but I just figured I might as well try. So this really needs to be no arguments, just to be a little bit more explicit with it. So now we know that this takes no arguments. The click, that does not take arguments either. Why? Oh yeah, because this is not imported, that's fine. Control-Shift-O, that's good. Should really set it up to auto-resolve the input. So input, that actually does have arguments. That has like the text that you want to input. Navigate, that has no arguments because, well, that could have arguments actually. At the page level, that could have arguments. It is a question of what we would do with no. Well, actually, I guess you could just have no target as well. This really needs to be navigate to page, doesn't it? Yeah, navigate to page. Well, because no, this needs to be actions package dot page. So actions dot page. So this can actually still be navigate. Yeah. So it needs to be actions dot page. That's fine. I don't care. I know we're doing like 6 things at once here. So we can say dot element. Put all of those in element. So yeah, actions.page, do we put no arguments here? Yes, we did. Okay, cool. Input, we take arguments, and validate attribute is. This actually does take arguments because we need to validate what the attribute actually is. So I think this is going to be a validate attribute arguments. And I think the only thing we need for that is, yeah, basically just this. But we want to, I mean, I know we're copy-pasting here, but we actually want to keep these classes sort of independent of each other. Control-C, Control-V. So this validate attribute, So this would be the attribute, and this implements arguments. So this would be the attribute, and this, we would actually need a expected value. Expected value. Yeah. No, we'll just say value. And we'll take a string attribute, and then we'll just say this dot attribute equals attribute, and you will say a public string attribute. Just return attribute. Okay, I'm gonna put this up here just so that the ordering here matches. And so this will work for, this will sort of work. This will work for most of them. So this will be validate attribute arguments. And we'll pass this in here. Okay. I really need to import Apache so that we can get the not implemented exception. I mean, I could make one myself, obviously, but there's not really a benefit to doing that. So this is validate attribute is, and then we need another class. Actually, we can just copy this one. Validate attribute contains. And I know this is sort of a little bit outside the Selenium sort of stuff, but the attribute stuff is important in CS or in this, what's it called? God, I can't remember now. It's important in automation testing. That's the word that I want. So we would say has attribute arguments. So yeah, the next thing we need to do is do has attribute. So validate attribute contains, validate attribute is. Then we need attribute has arguments, or validate attribute. Validate has attribute arguments. Thinking. So you basically can just copy this over. And so really we only need the attribute, we don't need the value in this case, because we're only checking if it exists, not if it has any specific value. This is really useful for the displayed sort of attribute. Not displayed, disabled. No idea why my throat does that whenever I try to record. It gets like a bunch of junk in it. Like, I mention this a lot. Like, I talk in meetings all the time at work, and I don't ever have any issues. But whenever I try to record, it's difficult for some reason. Okay, this is validate has attribute. And so a similar thing to here. Just going to implement not the validate attribute arguments, but the validate has attribute. Has attribute. Whoops. No. Validate has attribute arguments. That's a valid argument. I don't know what's wrong with you. Okay. Okay, now in theory, we want the negated versions of these. So we'd say this, we can control C, control V, validate attribute does not contain. And so this is the same arguments. Control C, Control V, validate attribute is not. Same thing here, same types of arguments. And this is Control C, Control V, does not have attribute. And I mean, obviously these could be in the same, you could have the same class. You could just add an extra like flag to the validate attributes. There are validate attribute arguments. Actually, never mind. I like that a little bit better. Now that I think about it, nope, don't paste those. Actually, delete these. Yeah, that'll be fine. Oh, validate has attribute. Initially, I was against it because it isn't super clear, like it's not super indicative of what it does. But we can say Boolean does not, or invert, or no, does not. And we'll just set that here. Say this dot does not equals does not, and then public Boolean does not. Does not. And again, I know this isn't Java naming convention. I don't care. I think the Java naming convention is relatively stupid anyway. At least for some things. Like, for some things it's okay, but I think the getters and setters syntax is not that great. I think it doesn't really help with much. It just means you have to type extra stuff. Not return. Yes, return. What am I doing? Return, no. Hands are moving a little bit faster than my brain. Okay, so now we've handled all of those cases. Now what we probably need to do is we probably need to go into element here and actually add those. So validate attribute is. So string attribute Boolean, or no, string value. This returns a void. Okay. And then we'll say is not. Okay, validate attribute contains. And this time we will type them all out specifically, just to make the actual code a little bit nicer. Or just to make it a little bit more explicit, I should say. Validate attribute does not contain, validate attribute, validate has attribute. And this will be does not have attribute. Alright, so I like that, and then that's going to cause errors in our Selenium element. Yeah, we'll have to deal with that. Actually, ooh, no we don't, because what we can do, haha, this is where I love Java. Because I'm pretty sure we can default these, right? So we can default this, we can say default void that, and then what we can say is get attribute, name attribute, and then we can say value dot equals, no, not dot equals. Oh, we need the assertion library, don't we? I think we do. I think we need asserts. Yeah. Alright, so let's go to, what is it called? Is it just Apache assert? Asserts? Is it asserts or is it assert? Apache Commons assert. Is it validate? No. Java assert Maven. Enable asserts org.assert. Is it org.assert? I think it is. I think it's assert J. I think that's what we want. Let's pretend that it is. We'll go to the parent project, which is test builder, and then we will add assert. I think this is what we want. Assert. Then let's just do a quick little Maven rebuild of everything. Finish that. When that's done, we should be able to do assertions. We should be able to say assert. Dot. No, I don't want that. Assert. No, it's none of these. Why? Why am I not getting the assert J import here? Has it not figured it out? No, certainly it should. Oh, what is the import for it? Would be org.assertJ. Import org dot, no, not org dot star. What? You don't have assert J? Why not? I just added it. Java assert assert true javadoc. Is it junit.assert? Is that where it comes from? Oh, it's testng that it comes from. Oh. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Then in that case, Maven testng, yeah, Maven testng Java. No, I don't need the testng plugin. Let's do 7.1 because that's as good as anything. Alright, well, if that's the case, let's go back here, down to the POM, rather than this, which is say Control-Shift-F, get rid of that, say testng, alright. Then if we Maven update all of this, then we should be able to use assertions. Okay, should be able to say assert from test. No, did it not grab it? Assert dot assert true. Oh my god, why do you not want to import org testng? Import org.test. Is it not org.testng? No, this clearly. I hate Maven sometimes. So you import what? You import test builder, so you should be getting the org.testng imports. That should definitely be a thing. So this comes from org.testng.assert. Yes, okay. So definitely this should be a thing. org.testng.assert. Or wait, is it asserts? What? Oh, org.testng.assert. But you can. That is available. Sure, force update. My god, why do you not like that? I don't understand. No, I really don't understand. So this should be Java, yes. This is imported. Oh, damn it, why do they always do that? It's not the first time I've had that happen. So there we go, dot assert equals. And I don't mind doing a static import. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I don't care. Assert dot, or static. I'll just put static imports at the bottom so that they're sort of organized. That's, no, you don't need that. Just say assert equals, yeah. And we can pretend that that's a mix-in. So assert dot, so we're going to assert the value is equal to, or no, we're going to assert the attribute. No, we're not. We're going to assert the get attribute, wait, no, get attribute, you can totally do that, I know you can. Attribute is equal to the value. Yes. There we go. Now we can do the same with all of these. So validate is not, dot assert not equals, and I don't know why you want the map, but sure. And then we can default this. Actually, let's just put default on all of these because we're gonna need to do that at some point, but yeah. And if we ever want to override these in a in some specific subclass, we can totally do that. So we can say validate attribute contains assert. Oh, is there an assert contains? No, of course there's not. Assert true that how do we do there? Let's say assert not null, because if the attribute is null, then it can't attribute value equal to get attribute of the attribute. So we get the attribute, we'll assert the attribute value is not null, which I don't know that it can be. We'll assert that the attribute value is not null just to be safe. If it is, we want to throw an error because an attribute that is null can't possibly contain a value. Although if the value is the empty string, well, no, because you can't assert that something contains the empty string because it always does. So we would say assert true, nope, assert true that the attribute value dot length is greater than 0, or no, well, no, we wouldn't want to do that either. We want to say that assert true that the attribute value dot equals, no, dot contains the value. Okay, and I think there's something else we need to do where we would want to assert that the value that they're trying to say contains is not empty, but I don't know. Assert false, because again, if the attribute doesn't exist, then it's not true that it doesn't contain something. It just doesn't exist, which is not correct. And so what we just want to say here is we want to say validate. Let's say validate. Actually, what? Let me double check the actual specification because I'm not sure. So web element Java doc. So I'm not sure what will happen if you try to get an attribute that doesn't exist. I don't remember if it returns null or what it actually returns. So it returns the current value or null if it is not set. But function would return either true or false. Async, autofocus, autoplay, all of those are true or false. are evaluated. Miscapitalized attribute property names are evaluated as expected. So we'll return the value of a given attribute unless the attribute is not present, in which case the value of the property, if neither is set, null is returned. Okay. So basically it seems like null is only returned in the case that the attribute does not even exist, which is perfect. What we'd want to say is assert not null, not null. We'd want to say get attribute, and we'll just say attribute. And then to validate that we do have the attribute, or that we do not have the attribute, we just say assert does not, or assert not null. There we go. Okay, and now these are defined in terms of the get attribute method, so we just inherit them by default, which is amazing. Okay, and now we can go back, instead of messing around, we can go back to actually doing more of this. Okay. So I think we have clear, we have attribute, yeah, we have selected. We can say is validate selected, validate selected, say validate is selected, yes. Okay, we can say similar thing here, we just want to implement this. But we don't want to implement it with those arguments. We actually need a new class of arguments for is selected. No, validate selected arguments. Validate selected arguments. Validate is selected. All right, I think this just implements arguments. I think that's right. We tried to work in terms of interfaces, yeah. Then this is just this just has a private or no protected. Is it protected or is it private? Is that what I'm using? I'm using protected. Okay. Is selected. All right, let's say is not. Private Boolean is not. So we'll say public validate selected arguments. Boolean is not. Right. So this dot is not. All right. And then public Boolean is not. And return is not. God, I wish I was using C#. So much easier in C#. So this is validate is selected arguments. Yeah, there we go. Then this handles both is selected and is not selected. Which we want to add to elements, to element itself. We want to say a default void validate is selected. Let's say default void validate is not selected. And we don't need to do anything with that. We just need to say assert true, and then we would say is selected, yes. Cool. And then this, we just assert false. Okay. So that is for selected, and we'll go through and we'll actually implement those later. I just want to get them all written down right now. And so this is basically the same. I think there's an is displayed as well. Yeah, there is. So what we'd want to say is this class validate is displayed. Actually, no. You just do this. Validate is enabled. Cool. Validate is enabled. And then this, validate is selected. We just want to Control-C, Control-V. Validate is enabled. And again, I know these are very similar in structure, but we want to make sure they can vary independently. So that's why we're doing the copy paste here instead of just reusing them. But yeah, they can vary independently, and I've seen them vary independently in very strange ways. So that's why we're doing it. But yeah, I mean, if we were being like super optimal, we could just basically use the isSelected for all of these. Validate isDisplayed arguments. Yep. And we'll just grab that. We'll go into isDisplayed. We'll put that there. Control-Shift-O, Control-S. Perfect. Then we can double check everything whenever we go back through and do the implementations. We could do some fun things with the location validation, but we're not going to worry about that. So the text validation, we basically want to do the same thing that we did with the attribute. So let's go into element itself, Control-Shift-T for element, comment reflect, absolutely not. Let's go into Selenium here and go up here. Alright, what? Okay, it's 10:30, good. Have our politics stream at, God, what is it? It's 1:30, I want to say it's 1:30 Central. Yeah, it's 1:30 Central, so that's my time. 2:30 Eastern. Yeah. So I just got to be mindful that that's coming up. So basically, we need all of this copy pasted for text. So validate. Wait. No. We need validate text is. Validate text is. Blah blah blah. So this is going to be a default void, string value, and then we're going to say validate text is not, validate text contains, validate text does not contain, and we can call these substring, substring. You can say validate has text. So we just validate the text exists at all. Basically, the length is not 0 and there's no spaces. And validate does not have text. Does not have text. Yes, okay. So, similar thing here, we would have to say validate the text is. So, I think that's assert equals, and then it's going to be get text, and then we're going to say value. And we'll just call this expected. Expected. So valid assert is, assert not equals, so that just says the text is not that. We'll say validate substrings. What we need to do is we need to make sure that this actually no, because this can't, from what I remember, Selenium can't return null for text. Or at least if it can, I've never seen that happen, even on an element that has no text at all. So we're probably going to say assert, no. Yes, assert true, such that get text dot contains substring. And if someone puts in the empty string here, they're just an idiot and it's their fault. It's not an error that we're going to deal with. I tried dealing with it before, and people always get confused that it throws an error. So I don't really know what else to do. So they validate has text, so that's going to be assert true such that the get text dot length is greater than 0. Because if it doesn't have text, it should return the empty string, and we will assert this to be that equal to 0, because that's the only way that it would not have text. And granted, this is not going to work necessarily for spacing, but what I want to do is later on we'll add a filter that just gets rid of spacing it'll get rid of spacing before the validate text, so basically we'll just override validate text in elements somewhere. I mean, we can do that actually here, I believe, or no? Well, yeah, I don't know. We'll figure it out. But yeah, basically there's going to be some kind of filter where it won't give back the raw text, it'll just give back a version that has the spaces stripped out, because normally in like automation, from what I've seen at least, the spaces are kind of like spacing and like padding and spacing are just kind of an inconvenience. You just generally don't care because the automation tool just doesn't need to care. So this is going to be validate attribute contains. We're going to control C, control V. Which is going to be validate text contains. So we go down here, and then this, instead of validate attribute arguments, should be validate text arguments. Validate text arguments. And then this is not going to have any of that. It's just going to have the does not and then the text itself, or the value itself. Okay. Yes. Perfect. And we'll just copy that. Let's put that in the validate text, and then we'll Control-Shift-O, Control-S. Yay, everything works. All right. So this is validate text contains. We'll say validate text is. Oh, contains is. So this, I think, also just has the validate text arguments. Yeah. Okay. And this is the other one. Validate has text. And then we'll Control C, Control V. And so this is validate has text arguments, and it just contains the does not. Nope. Validate has text arguments, yeah. This just has the does not. I just don't want these carrying around extra values, and also these things can vary independently of each other, so we don't want to keep them in the same class, even though technically they could, you know, they have the right shape, but we don't want to confuse the concerns there. Okay, so that's for text. The tag name, I don't know that we would ever want to care about the tag name. Maybe we do, well, I don't think so. I'm gonna say no. So get wrecked, get CS, get wrecked. Hashtag get wrecked. To get the CSS value, do we care about CSS validation? Maybe we do, but I think you can access these through the attributes, if I know what I'm talking about, which I probably don't. I don't know, I haven't done much with the CSS value stuff. So yeah, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to call that good. I'm going to call that good for now. So with that, need to make sure that all of these are implemented. So this is clear, that's implemented. Wait, is it? Yeah, clear. That's good. And wait. So no arguments, yeah, because it's clear. We don't do anything with that. All right, cool. Click. Click doesn't have any arguments, and we call .click. That's great. Input has input arguments, and we call .send keys. That's great. Attribute contains. So now what we need to do is we need to say locator.get from the context. Then we need to say dot validate attribute contains. Yes, and so it's attribute arguments. We say arguments dot attribute. And then we say arguments dot value. Cool. Actually, what we need to say is we need to say if. You know what? Actually, what we need to do is all of these implement action. What we want to do. So I think what we want to say is that all of these implement. Actually, would that work? Would that work? Because I want to, basically what I'm thinking is that we have a default way of doing this, of just getting this element. Perhaps. Yeah, I don't think the logic would work. Alright, it doesn't matter. We'll say if arguments dot does not. So if it does not contain, what we want to do is we actually want to do this, but we want to say validate does not contain. Actually, what we can say is we can say var validation. Yes, var validation. Oh, how does var work with lambdas, or does it work with lambdas? Let's find out. I am actually excited to know the answer to this. So it should. So it should be element validate attribute contains, or no, if does not. Otherwise, it should be element validate attribute contains. Are you valid? Oh, really? Why though? Why though? Because you're the same shape of method. Why does it need an explicit type? That's really lame. Come on. Come on, these methods are the same shape. Why do they need an explicit type? It should be able to, well, I guess it can't link it to a buy function or a buy consumer, but still, I don't see why. That's really lame. So it's a buy consumer of string, obviously. Really, Java? Are you that dumb? Cannot make non-static reference. Right, so var element equals, oh, maybe it doesn't, maybe it'll work, wait, locator dot get, okay, maybe this will still work. Okay, and then we can just say element here. Yeah, that works. Okay, now, if I grab this, are you smart enough? Why are you not smart enough? Come on. Come on, man. So yeah. And then we just do, validation dot accept arguments dot attribute arguments dot value. Okay. I mean, it's still okay, I guess. It's kind of lame. Okay, so I grab that. So this is validate attribute contains. So we'll say validate attribute is now. So this is validate attribute is, and well, is and is not. Okay, that logic just works. All right, so is. This is validate attribute arguments, good. And nope, that's not what I wanted. This is what I wanted. And this is in validate has attribute. So So say validate has, validate does not have text, validate has attribute. It has attribute, and validate does not have attribute. Okay. So this is just a normal consumer of strings. Okay. Yep. And then this, we just don't need the value. Okay. So this will go into has text as well. Instead of validate has attribute, it's validate does not have text actually. Does not have text, and validate has text. And this is, I think, value? Yeah. Arguments dot value. And why do you not like that? Does not have something that is applicable here, but it does. Where? Oh, no, it says has text. Oh, right, because this doesn't have an actual value. So this is actually just a runnable. And this is validation.run. There we go. It's like, I knew this was kind of strange. Okay, so in is displayed, I think this is a similar situation here. I think is displayed. I don't remember I don't remember what we execute for that. Actually, I think it's a runnable still. Alright, because it would be arguments. Oh, it would be is not. And then it's validate is displayed. Or validate. Oh, did we not make the validate displayed versus validate not displayed? Oh, we didn't. Okay. So to do for enabled, disabled, or enabled, I think it's just enabled and displayed. Yeah, for enabled slash displayed, make validate methods on element. Alright, so I am going to take a break because I have been doing this for almost an hour, and my brain is kind of fried. So I think we can put it on the intermission. Yeah, okay. I'll see you guys in a minute. Alright, so you should be able to hear me again. Let me turn on the Eclipse part of this. Okay, cool. Looks like the camera and everything is still working correctly. Awesome. That's all good. Sometimes the webcam turns off and it worries me. Okay, so we need to create the validation methods for validate displayed, selected, or validate displayed and enabled. Yes, that's what we need to do. Let's go into element and check on that. So not Java lang reflect. Workspace matches, no. None of that. Really? Okay, it's just being completely useless. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. We'll just go here. Yeah. Okay. So, we had validate selected. Yeah, validate is selected versus not selected. Need to copy these over and do validate is displayed versus is not displayed. And then we define them in terms of is displayed. And then we would say assert false is displayed, okay. And then we need to do the same thing for is enabled. Say is enabled and is not enabled. So this is enabled versus is not enabled, or not is enabled, but validate true is enabled, validate false is enabled. Okay, is enabled. There we go. Okay, and again, this is defining these as default methods. Basically what that does is that just gives anything that implements element that will give those methods to it just by default, because they're defined in terms of other methods. So yeah, there's no point in defining them each time because they'd be defined the same way. So for this is displayed, so we'd say validate is not displayed. Otherwise here we'd say validate is displayed. Right. Okay, and so that just works. I'm happy about that. And so now we're just going to grab this. It's going to be the same for is enabled, but we're going to use enabled and not displayed. So enabled and enabled. Is not enabled. Enabled. Is enabled. Cool. Alright. And so yep, checking the context, everything's fine. And then for selected, we do the same thing. We say is not selected. And then for displayed, we do the same thing, is selected. Okay. And yep, all of those work well. Oops, validate text contains. So this, I believe, is not a runnable anymore. It is a consumer of type string, because we're going to validate that the text contains something. String, so if this is not, I believe it's does not. We're going to say validate text contains, and validate text does not contain. Okay. Perfect, and then this is not validation, this is accept, because it is a consumer. Accept. And then it is arguments dot get, arguments dot value. That will be the expected, I believe. And then we want to say the same thing for validate text is. Okay. So say validate text is. Validate text is not. No, it isn't. It's the other way. Is not. Yeah, actually, because we're checking does not, we want this to work the other way. I knew I was going to get confused on that at some point. It's not... What is it? What is the... Oh, is this? No, this is text is, not has text. This is validate text arguments. Okay, a little bit of an issue there. arguments. Okay. And we can import that, Control-Shift-O, Control-S. And then this is arguments.value, arguments. Okay, now that works. So it's the is not first because we're checking does not. Validate text does not. And we screwed it up there. Did we screw it up here? No. So this one's not, that one's not, that one's not. This one is not. Okay, perfect. Alright, so I think we've implemented all of the validations that we want to validate. Okay, so now that that is true, I think what we need to do is we need to encode all of that into our sort of gherkin here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we have 12 things to test. I want to first create a script that has all of them, just so that we know what we're going to try to create. And it's not in Test Builder anymore, it is in Gherkin. So scripts, the login script, so what we need is 12 things. We have what? Is this going to, okay, good. So we have clear, we have click, have navigate, and we have input, we have attribute, validate attribute, contains, also with a not, validate attribute is with not, and validate has attribute with does not. Say validate has text with not does not. Say validate displayed with not, and we validate enabled with not, and we validate selected, potentially not. We say validate date text contains with not, and then we say does not contain. Then we validate text is, and say text is not. Okay, so we have to figure out how to do all of these. So with this is a navigation one. We'll keep that at the top just to make sure that we're still testing it. Navigate here. So these are the element, or no, these are the page interactions. And then here we will have element interactions. Okay. So we do have input, and we have the click done. Alright. So what we want to say is given the user clears the element, I think. Clears the text in element, probably. Yeah. So we want it to say given the user clears the text in element, in the element. This is going to be, I don't know, username. And so this is not going to compile, but we'll fix it in a minute. So given, ooh, that's going to be interesting. This would need to be the element. The problem being that the target... Huh. Part of the problem is that the target also needs... Huh. So the target needs to actually contribute to what the steps are. Okay. So this needs to be the element username has the attribute, right? Or no, given the element. Ooh. Huh. Has the attribute with the value. ABC. Because I mean, the way that we would say this in English is, you know, given the attribute on the element has the value. I mean, I guess you could say the attribute on the element ABC, or, you know, username has the value ABC value. Then you'd want to say given the attribute does not have the value, or sorry, attribute contains given the value of the attribute attribute on element contains does not contain. That's probably what we're going to want that to say. Then the value of the attribute, because that can be a target. The value of the attribute could be a target. I don't know how that's going to work, but let's... Yeah, I don't know. The value of the attribute is not, and the element, we'd have to say the element, you know, username, let's say element has, or element has the attribute, you know, attribute, okay, does not have the attribute. Okay, so there's different kinds of targets, which is interesting. I had not encountered this before. I'll say given the user sees the text text in the element. Yeah, given the user sees the text, does not see. Say does not see the text. In element. And then text contains user I don't know, I'm not liking that. Not really liking it, but I think it's a good sort of first step. Sees the text. You could say contains the text, but I don't. Let's say the element contains the text, or has text. And the element has text, does not have text. Yeah, we'll use it as the element does not have text. This would probably say given or, and or then the element does not have text. We'll say given element is displayed, is not displayed. Actually, we could probably make this look nicer if we do, well, not nicer, but the is dot not displayed. Yeah, something like that. Is not displayed, or is displayed. Yeah, probably a little bit more. Well, nah. Just make it a little more explicit. Fine with that. Negations be damned. Say is enabled, and then we'll say is not enabled. And then we'll say is selected, and then is not selected. Say given the element has the text or does not have the text. Or contains the text. Contains the text. Text does not contain the text. Does not contain the text. Text, the element, would have to be the text in the element. Yeah. It's unfortunately a lot less modular than I'd like, but I don't know. So the text in the element is the text. No, that has to be in the element itself. The element contains the text, does not contain the text, has the text, or shows the text. Does not show the text. This is validating the text is. attribute on the element. Element does not have text, has text. It could just be variations of has text. Actually, I like that better. Has text, has the text. Does not have the text. Yeah. There we go. Okay, that might work. So I think a big part of this is going to be getting the target stuff to actually work. So this target, this is a different kind of target, right? And then this is a target with any kind of, okay. So rather than having a script with s extends steps, we're going to have the target give back some set of steps. So rather than this being relevant, this is not relevant anymore. Instead, I think what this needs to be is a target. No, it needs to be, this generic needs to be t extends target, and we need to give back that t, and then we need to give this t back here. And so this needs to actually be t, no, a genericized t returns t, get instant, or get target instant, or get instance of target, and then it's going to be some class t extends target class. Why? Oh, right, because we need this constraint here. Yes? Yes, okay. So that can go away. And then this just needs to say get instance of target, target.get class. Correct? Type mismatch cannot. Why can you not? Because this is t that extends class, t that extends target. And because we can't ensure that the, is it class of t? Is it new class of t? New class t. No. Oh, can we not do this? Okay, so why does it not like that? Okay, type mismatch. Capture from number one extends, blank extends that. Extends target to t, but they have the same type restriction. I don't understand why the class of target is not guaranteed. I don't understand why that class is not guaranteed to extend target. Am I crazy? Can I not cast you to the type of T? No, I cannot. I hate generics. Let's not put constraints on this. We'll say anything that extends, we'll give back a target, then we'll cast you to T. No, we'll cast the return type to T. Would that have worked otherwise? Wait, does that work? We just can't say that this... Okay, yeah, sure, why not? I mean, surely we can say anything that extends target, right? Surely that's compile time. I don't understand why we have to return, why this can't return, why we can't pass in a class and then return an object of that same class. I am, God, I don't understand. It's one of those things that has just always confused the hell out of me with generics, is why we can't just do that. There's probably some really good explanation that I don't know, and I feel bad not knowing it, but I don't know. Yeah, that'll do that'll do that, and that'll do that. Alright, cool. So now this is going to break everything in our browser script, because this doesn't need to exist anymore. And this can't be parameterized like that. Okay. Now the user needs to return something here. Browser steps. So the user should be able to extend this. So yeah, okay, actually, this might work out really well. Implementation, where do we have, shouldn't we have API? We do, okay. So this will be a package, this will be targets, and then so one of the targets should be an interface, which is user. So if this just implements browser steps, no, not implements, extends. Browser steps. Okay. Now, since the user returns, or no, the user returns a user, sure, and I don't think we actually need the step instance anymore. Yeah, we don't need that. The only problem is they all have to share a builder, which is actually fine. So the user. You. Do we actually need steps? It is only used for inheritance, so I don't think so. I think steps is pointless now. So we'll just, instead of calling this browser action, or browser steps, we'll call it user actions. Okay. Because you can navigate to a page and you can click an element, right? So the user, yep, with the user actions. And I guess we'll just create an implementation. We'll create a user implementation. And what that will do is that we'll just have a public user IMPL. This extends, or no, implements user. Yep, that's fine. This is user implementation. And then this has an unimplemented method, which is fine. So actually, no, this would be user impl. Yeah, actually. Yeah, actually that would be our user implementation. Alright, never mind. Die. Okay. Say user implementation, and then this implements user, which is going to have user actions by default. Okay. Control-Shift-O, Control-S, and then this, yeah, okay. And then the browser script, this is going to need to implement get instance of target. Right. So create an overridden thing here. And then we'll just create a user implementation, or user, and we'll say equals new user. Oh wait, we can't do that. Just call this user. We'll say if target class instance of user, or no, target class is user.class, then we return user. Elsewise return null. Both of which should be instances of target. Why do you not like that? Sure, that was the place to put the modifier Java. You don't like this. Can I convert from user to T? But it is. I guarantee you that's valid, Java. Yeah, that will definitely work. That way, if we try to get a user, we will just get a user. So this will just be get instance of target, which is user.class. It's not applicable. What? But user does extend target. Oh no, it doesn't. Oh, okay, that's why it's not valid. Oh, never mind. Okay, yeah, you're a target. Oh my god, give me the import. Yes, that one. Okay. Okay, now you're happy. By chance. Are you happy? No, you can't. You still can't do that conversion. Okay. So this will get us an instance of the user. We actually need to call this here. Can't we just return user? We can just return user. What am I doing? Why don't we just return user? Yeah, okay. Then we'll have public. Oh, no, we can't do that. We need to say user. No, we need to say user equals new user implementation with the builder. Yep. There we go. Now some of this should start compiling. Yeah, there we go. So now we have the user navigates. So we given, have to say target, so we say the user. And then this will give us inputs and navigates and clicks. Awesome. Okay. So that being said, these are user actions. So you can say clears the element now. So we say void clears the element string name. Okay, and that creates an issue in the user implementation. So we add the unimplemented method here, and this will return new. No, this we use builder dot with step. The action is new clear. And then we pass in null for the arguments because clear doesn't require an argument. Then we say new element on page locator, which is going to be using the last page. And then, yeah, just call this element. And now, this does not compile. Why does that not compile? Should be in user, which has user actions, which is, oh, clears the text in the element, yes. And then in the user implementation, actually it should be phrased that way. Okay. Now that causes that to compile in the login script, which is great. So now, the element. I want to make the element compile now. I think that's just going to return an element target. So we're going to have the API have interface element actions. Okay. And then we're going to have one of the targets be an element. So this is going to implement element actions as well as target. Okay, extends, by the way. No, it doesn't. It implements, because it's going to be a class. No, it won't. It'll be an interface. Okay, so rather than that, this just extends the two. Okay, cool. Then we can import those. Right now, element actions doesn't have anything. Oh, wait a minute. Where did that come from? Okay, that came from there. All right. So now, with the element actions, we can create an element implementation. And then this implements element actions. So anything you can do with an element, you can call in this class. And we're not going to have any methods there. That's fine. And then I think we need to pass in the user itself, I believe, the user implementation. Yeah, the user implementation has the builder in it, so the element implementation needs to have the builder as well. Element implementation, so public element implementation test dot builder. All right. You're going to say protected builder test dot builder. All right, cool. And this dot builder equals builder. Cool. And with the builder, we're also going to have to pass in a string element. Give it the name. Get string element. This, or actually, we'll call it name. Yeah. Okay, so now we should in the, it's not the script, it's not the login script, it's the login script, it is browser script. We should have a public element, the element, string name, and then this should return, should probably have a, no, this should return a new element implementation, because we want different ones every time. Whoa, that's not right. Element implementation. None of those look right. Why? Did I misspell it? Element implementation, that's fine. Then this is there. And then this is going to return, no, there, dot targets. This is going to have a builder and a name. You don't like that, why? But you can. This should, or no, this doesn't need to, wait. Yeah, user impulse, this just needs to implement element, not element actions. Getting a little ahead of myself. Okay, so now the element should compile. Yes, it does, amazing. Okay, and so the value of the attribute, that's going to require its own sort of custom locator thing. That's going to be, well, no, it doesn't actually. We'll just call the target to be an attribute value. Or, no, yeah, the target is an attribute value. So that's going to implement, no, it's going to extend attribute value actions and target. So the target is going to come from the Gherkin API. Attribute value actions is not something we've created yet. So we're going to go into interface, create attribute value actions. And then, yeah, that doesn't need a parent class. So this can just import that, cool. And then we're going to have a class, which is an attribute value implementation. And then that's going to implement attribute value, attribute value, attribute value. Okay. Have that, wait, what? Attribute value, yes. Import attribute, that's the problem. Missing a T. I don't care. You can import from here. Alright, cool. And then we need a public attribute value implementation. Need to pass in the test.builder, builder, string, string name, string name. We can say protected test.builder, builder, protected string name. Okay. This dot builder equals builder. This dot name equals name. Okay. So the value of the attribute, that's the only other target. So that's in browser script. So public attribute value, the value of the attribute with string name. We're going to return a new attribute value implementation, that with builder and name. All right. So this, cool. So actually, I think this get instance of target is completely unnecessary. Is that true? I think it is, actually. Oh, wait. Oh, no, right, okay. Right, yeah, get instance of target. Oh, but that returns the target. There's no actual reason to do that. It only made sense whenever we had steps. Okay. Oops. Control S. Alright, cool. Okay, so it's coming up on 12. Okay, does this suddenly... Oh yeah, that doesn't compile, but it doesn't need to. Yeah, there we go. Then you don't compile, but that's fine. We expected that. Okay. And the user apparently needs the inputs action. Why does the user not have the inputs action? What is wrong with then? Oh, everything has that problem. That's fair. Alright, so now the user works. Okay, now these are going to be more complex, so I'd kind of like to just tackle the element values now. Because the others are going to have some complexity problems. So let's see, in the element, element actions is what we want to open. this, okay? So it's going to be has the attribute, just say void for that. Void has the attribute, we can add the string later. String attribute. Add string attribute. Cool. And this is has text. Oops. Void has text. String text. And this does not have the text. Actually, it doesn't have that. Okay. Void does not have text. Cool. And then is displayed and is not displayed. Then is enabled versus is not enabled. I'm really enjoying this. I think this is actually going to turn out to be very great. Those both need text as arguments. So this now compiles here. Okay, you have an unimplemented method, which is, oh, no. Oh, right. That's the problem. I remember now. Okay. That's why you need the, get instance of targets. Actually, this just needs to be t, get target, t of target. Right? Which doesn't need a default instance, actually. No. This needs t extends target. Just get target. Which really, it just returns itself. So this is just return get target. I mean, it doesn't do anything. It's just to appease the Java compiler. This needs to return t, actually. Which just returns t. Oh, no, wait, what am I doing? You can just default to t. What? God, why am I so dumb today? Return target. Damn it. And this is mad because it needs to be called default. Yeah, there we go. It's just some syntactic sugar to make this look nicer. Doesn't have any function. Because we already delegated the target functionality, or the thing that gives you the target is elsewhere. So yeah, login script is now fine with that. Okay, cool. And so now, in the element implementation, there are problems because we need all of these. Okay. It's crazy, I tell ya. Alright, so has the attribute. So this is going to be builder.with step new has attribute. New validate has attribute. And so the arguments are going to be new has attribute, new validate, has attribute arguments. And so has attribute. So we're going to have the attribute. This is going to be false, because it does have it. And then the locator is new element on page locator, element on page locator. And so, but we don't have the last page. Interesting. With the user, we knew what the last page was, but with this we don't. Ooh, that's fun. Okay. So there needs to be a context with this. Because I think the user will have the last page. Yeah, it has the last page. So there actually needs to be a context, which is always fun. I'll just say script context, sure. I guess the actions can be bound to a specific context? Does that make sense? I will say yes. Because when could a target have different contexts? So yeah. Let's say browser context, script context. So what that will do, this will be no, that'll be an interface. And then we'll say string, and this will be the last page. And then in the implementation, we will just say browser script context implementation, which will, which will implement, well, yeah, I won't worry about it. We'll just say in contexts, we'll say browser script context, that'll be fine, that's just going to be a class. That'll just be a class, there's no reason to do this. This one we will have a protected string, which will be the last page. Yep, and then this is going to implement script context. This basically will be created at the beginning of the script, and then it will be mutated whenever the script, it'll be mutated so that steps that aren't aware of each other can pass information to each other. So this is going to have, we're going to refactor, we're going to source, we're going to generate getters and setters. One of the few times you'll ever see me use getters and setters. So this is the context, and then the implementations need a browser script context, right? So with that, what we can do is in the element implementation, this can also require a context. This will be context. Yes. And then in attribute value implementation, this will also require a context. Okay, and then in these three, we can say a protected browser context, and actually I'm going to make these final, just so that I don't get the problems that I've gotten in the past, where I forget to set them somewhere. that. And then we'll have private final, protected. Why did I make those private? What am I thinking? Browser context. Okay. We don't need the last page anymore. Okay. Did I didn't. Go. This.context equal context. And again, it'll be clear why we're doing this in just a minute. So this is with step context. So we're going to say context dot set last page to be page. So now this context can communicate, can help the steps communicate, as opposed to just having them try to store all the information themselves, because they're going to store the same information about the execution, so we might as well store it in one place. One moment, I have some stuff on my phone. Looks like the lighting has changed a little bit. Oh. Interesting. Is there a way to turn off the Apple News stuff? I mean, there must be, right? I just can't think of anything less relevant than what the Vice President is doing decorating the office, but whatever. I think there's literally not a human being on Earth that cares. This is an element with a name. Okay, cool. So what is your problem? Type safety, validate has attribute. Validate that with generic. Do you have issues? You have issues with element on page here. Oh yeah, because we don't know the page. Oh wait. Wait, you accept page? Just page? You just accept that. Okay. Sure. Why not? Yeah, sure. In case you didn't know, it's a page. I mean, yeah, that doesn't... Okay, sure, whatever. Okay, so... this, we can do builder. Basically, its attribute does not have. Let me just pass in true. For does not. I really shouldn't. That really should be does. It shouldn't be does not. So yeah, it's kind of unfortunate. It shouldn't be an inversion. I don't know. Made sense whenever I did it. So we say new, so it's validate has text, and then new validate has text arguments, and then it'll be false for does not. The locator will be the same. Just create a private method for locator. No, actually, private locator. Locator, I think it's for element, and we say on last page. This on last page. I say on last page. Which is just going to create this. Unfortunately, we can't use the same one because the last page could have changed since we last looked at it. Why do you not like that, huh? Oh, because it's it is com.red.plus blue.module com.red plus blue dot module dot browser module dot targets dot element is what that is. Yeah. Now that'll work. Alright. So just say on last page. Okay. So yeah, the last page might have changed since we last looked at it, but it'll try to use this element at least. Okay. That's a little bit shorter. You don't like that. Why? Is not applicable. I'm pretty sure it is. What is missing? So validate has text. You are an action. Validate. Oh wait, you use validate text arguments. No, it's validate has text. Haha. Glad we found that mistake. Alright, so we just do the same thing. Validate does not have text, and we'll say true. We're going to just invert it. Alright. So this, all of these are now valid. Alright. We need to go over to the element implementation. We need to finish this. So builder.with step, and so this is actually going to be the new validate displayed. Validate is displayed. This is going to be new validate. Validate is displayed arguments, and false for the inversion. Okay, now true for the inversion. All right. And then we just need this. We need to replace is enabled. Validate is enabled. Enabled. Okay. And okay. This will work. We say true for the inversion. Okay. I think what I'm going to do is I'm probably just going to finish this, and then I will go and log off and get ready for the next stream, because I need to eat and I need to get some more coffee. But yeah, I'm really liking how this is turning out. I know that this part is kind of just a bunch of nonsense and it's a bit crazy, but still, you gotta admit, this is kind of cool looking. I mean, even if, not by Java standards, but just by the fact that it can be this readable and still execute. And I mean, all of this nonsense can really be ignored, just because this is only a layer on top of the automation framework. It doesn't actually change how it works at all, which I think is really, really neat. But eventually we're going to add a GUI to the automation framework, and this sort of code is what we're going to need to think about. And so it's good that we can get this working. And yeah, we'll have to test this later. Validate text contains. So argument new text contains, oh no, validate text contains arguments. Yeah, validate text contains, oh, validate text arguments, right. Because it's only a text, and then we say false for inversion, and then we say on last page. Alright. So we have that, and then we say true for contains. Yeah, this is the power of reusing those steps. So we can say validate text has, or validate text is. That's what it is, because whenever we say has the text, we mean that we're validating that the text is something. In here, we will just say true for the inversion. Alright, so that should be a complete implementation of element itself. I don't think, what's browser script complaining about? Oh, because you want a context. Right, that's the other thing we need, is a browser script context. Whoops. Browser script context. Do we have a context implementation, really? Oh, you didn't get deleted. Okay. Well, we don't need you. You're not useful. We'll say, make these final as well, because I want them assigned, otherwise I'm gonna forget. Oh, no, wait, we can't, because these are in the abstract, right. I'm gonna say context equals new browser script context. Then we can put this down here, because that's the order it's defined in. And then in the user, we'll pass in a context. And then in here, we'll pass in a context as well. And then in here, we'll pass in a context as well. Cool. And now, what that will do is that'll create the context. Okay. So I can't remember where the logging implementation. Oh, right, okay. So the logger is going to be contained in the virtual element. So what we need to do is we need to probably create an override for all of these. Basically, it's just going to be a copy-paste, and we're going to, into the default element, or into virtual element, because that's the one we're using, just to log all of this stuff. Ooh, there's a question. So is there any way to call the default version? I don't know that. If there is not, that could be a problem later. But for now, I need to get coffee, and I need to get, mainly just need to get coffee and food. Mainly coffee, but also food. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for watching. I might be back on later. No, I will. I'll try to be back on at 5 just to get some more of this done, because I'm really liking this. I need to do some recording, but yeah, at 5 I will be back. Thank you guys for watching. See you then.